Hey sports fans, are you in the market for Florida sports or just keeping up with the latest in the Panhandle? Palm Tree Sports is a dedicated audio hub to all things sports in the Sunshine State. We cover current events, big news, heavily favored opinions all across the NFL, NBA, MLB, and so much more. So come check us out every Saturday evening at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. For a down south education on Florida sports and athletics, it's hosted by yours truly, Corey Pujols, and is powered by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Palm Tree Sports. My name is Corey Pujols, your host, and as always, it is brought to you and powered by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Happy Saturday, everybody. Welcome back. I'm glad to have you here. We got a few things to talk about. As most of you guys already know, Tampa Bay played their first preseason game of the season yesterday. And we are going to get into all of that. We're going to cover all the things that went down during that game. I was able to watch the entire game, so I can give you a bird's eye view right from Tampa, Florida, guys. So again, welcome. We're not just talking Tampa Bay, though. We also have the Jags and the Fins to talk about. We got a little bit of Heat news that came out, as well as a little bit of Gator news as well. We have some Rays news to get into, of course, talking about what's going on in their 3-game series right now, as they are actually playing right now at the moment. So I will give you guys an update once we get to that point. And then your run-of-the-mill UFC and professional wrestling news that I would like to just, put a bug in you guys' ear about that, especially if you're looking for something to watch tonight. So guys, sit back, relax, and let's go ahead and get started in all this. So first things first, guys, we're going to go ahead and talk about Tampa Bay because obviously that was the biggest thing that was going on yesterday coming out of the state of Florida, and you'll see why I mentioned that in a few moments when we also talk about the Jags and the Fins. So, the Buccaneers played against the Pittsburgh Steelers yesterday in the first preseason game of the 2023 season, and needless to say, it was very skittish, okay? It was uneventful in the form of the second half for all intensive purposes, but that doesn't mean there isn't anything to talk about, as there is, on the contrary, plenty to talk about with Tampa Bay. So let's get into the score. First things first, 27-17 was the final for yesterday's game, going the Steelers' way. For those of you who may or may not know this, first off, Rondé Barber was inducted into the Hall of Fame, and one of the people who helped induct him into the Hall of Fame was Mike Tomlin, the head coach of the Steelers. So for those of you who do not know, during the year that Tampa Bay won the Super Bowl, we had 9 interceptions returned for touchdown on that season, and the defensive back coach for that season was Mike Tomlin, who is now the head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers. So there's a lot of continuity between these two teams, especially with the love that we have for Mike Tomlin, because although he may be the head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers, we love him down here, and we've never forgotten what he had done for us and what he had helped bring to the table for us in that first Super Bowl victory of ours. So Tampa Bay's backups were in the game, so that's actually one of the key points here. Ironically speaking, the score does not speak for the amount of talent that was on the field. The Buccaneers only had one projected starter who played on defense the entire night. Okay, now that would be Logan Hall. Now, he's a projected starter. That does not mean and guarantee that he is going to start, as, if I may be so bold, he did absolutely nothing last night. He was not any type of force to be reckoned with on the inside, and that was something that was very noticeable early on into the game. The bigger details come from the rest of the defensive line and the offensive line. So, for the notes that I was able to take away, guys, for those of you who do not watch the game, here's a quick note list of things that took place. First things first, the offensive line looked terrible, okay? Now, on defense, I said there was only one projected starter who played. On offense, it was quite the contrary, okay? So half of the offensive line are projected starters. Baker Mayfield obviously is a projected starter. And then the only area that we didn't use a starter, the only two areas I should say that we didn't use a starter would be the wide receiving core, as you guys know, the Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Russell Gage, and then the running back position, which is owned by Mr. Number 1, Rachaad White, okay? So, the offensive line definitely played terrible, specifically in run blocking. These guys were not able to move any of the people in front of them backwards, which created very, very hazardous pathways for the running backs to travel, and because of that, none of the running backs really were able to separate themselves, except for Sean Tucker late in the fourth quarter, or was it third? It might have been third quarter, but we'll get into Sean Tucker in a little bit. Now, on the opposite side of the ball, the defensive line, there are two stud muffins of rookies that are out there, and yes, I did say stud muffin, guys. There were two rookies who really popped off yesterday on the defensive line, and that would be both of the outside linebackers, which would be Servassier Dennis, okay, and Yaya Diaby, okay. Both of these guys were absolutely monstrous early on in the game. We were able to see that their size and their presence alone, mixed with their skill, ultimately is something that we will be seeing on Sunday. So guys, get ready for those two names, specifically Yaya Diaby, okay? This guy is a monster. Seeing him in pads for the first time was just a revelation. He's absolutely huge. All right, guys, so if you haven't seen him yet, go look him up. This guy is going to be a monster for Tampa Bay, barring injury, obviously knocking on wood that nothing bad happens to him. But you know, we got to call it like we see it. You know, obviously, with 27 undrafted and rookie players on this team, there are going to be some guys who make the team. There are going to be a lot of young guys who make the team, obviously. But, you know, being young, one of the biggest things that young players are susceptible is to injury. So keep an eye out for those two guys right there, okay? Now, this is obviously, you know, a preseason game, so I'm not going to be too over the top with it. But I do want to speak objectively, because we know in the game of football that if you can't play with the players around you, it doesn't matter who's around you, you're not going to be able to succeed. So this is more or less me diving into what I noticed specifically about a lot of the young guys and then some of the older guys there. Now, as I mentioned, those were two of the guys who really stood out on defense as far as the defensive line is concerned. Mr. Zion McCollum, second-year player, cornerback position, number 27, if you guys were watching the game yesterday, did have a nice pick in the second quarter. I think it was to start the second quarter, to be honest with you, and it was right after the touchdown that Baker Mayfield threw. So this was very important, because this is a guy who has a very, very, very high upside, but we haven't seen him climb that ladder very much in his going into his second year. Last year was very forgettable performance by him, I guess you could say. And yes, he was a rookie, but you know, guys, we judge the players based off their ability to come into the league and start immediately, okay? Case in point, Rachaad White last year, right? This guy came in as a rookie, completely took the job away from Leonard Fournette. It wasn't that we don't like Leonard Fournette, but Leonard realized that he was no longer going to be the clear starter in Tampa Bay, and with Tom Brady leaving, it was just time for him to get out of town. And that's understandable. That's respectable. That's him saying, hey, I know that I am not in position to do something that I was once able to do. Let me go and see if I can figure out another place to do it, essentially. So, with that being said, KJ Britt, who is, I believe, a third-year player for Tampa Bay, at linebacker, played very, very well, okay? So, this is one of those things where you're not just going to shine a light on the rookies. We're going to talk about some of the guys who actually showed up and who have been showing up for a while. William Golston, who's defensive lineman for Tampa Bay, and he's been here for 11 years. He's been in the NFL for 11 years. He's been with Tampa Bay, I believe, all of those years. He played very well, and he played well into the third and fourth quarter. So, that is a veteran who says, hey, you know, it doesn't matter what time it is. I'm still going to come out. I'm still going to play. I'm still going to ball hard. And that's something that you love to see, because you know Levante is going to do that. Okay? And you know some of the other older players, Vita Vea, and those guys, they're going to do that. So, you know, I look forward to seeing what this team is able to do, especially noticing that the outside of Tampa Bay is going to be absolutely tremendous. Guys, just think about this for a second, okay? Tampa Bay's outside linebacking core could very well consist of Shaq Barrett, okay, Joe Shoyinka, okay, Yaya Diaby, okay, and Servassier Dennis. That, just based off of what we've seen so far, is going to be an elite outside linebacking groove that we have going on. Of course, your middle two linebackers are going to be Levante David and Devin White. So, this team has something going on here, guys. So, don't sleep on Tampa Bay just yet, at least defensively. Now, offensively, okay, I got some bad news, guys. And as a Gator, it's paining me to say this, but Kyle Trask is still struggling, okay? There are a lot of people out here, myself included, who would love to see Kyle Trask start and become the guy that he was at Florida. There's just one problem. He's not putting it on tape. He can have all the good practices he wants, but until he actually goes out there and does it, preseason or otherwise, somebody like Baker Mayfield is always going to eat up the starting position, what leads me to the performance of the night, which I am going to give to Baker Mayfield. Good job, Baker Mayfield, coming in here under the lights with your first couple of drives, being a little bit of a struggle. You were able to put something together late in the first quarter and even the game up at 7 apiece. Now, guys, the reason why this is a big deal is because there are a lot of people who are skeptical, okay? There are a lot of people that are extremely skeptical of what Baker Mayfield can do because of his tendencies, because of his history in the league, especially with turning the ball over. But the rumor around town has always been the same about Baker Mayfield. He performs better under the lights. This seems to be the case as he went 8 for 9 last night, 63 yards, and a touchdown, all right? And it was a beauty. It was caught by Trey Palmer in the back of the end zone, and it was definitely something that if you haven't seen, go check it out. You can see right there, then and there, that Baker has what it takes to not just be a starter, but be very good with this team because, mind you, again, no one of the starting 3 receivers for Tampa Bay played in this game. These were all rookie and second year wide receivers that, were playing the game with Baker Mayfield. This is important because 2 other outstanding performers on offense that came out yesterday as rookies are going to be Trey Palmer and obviously Devin Tompkins. I said he was a rookie. He's not a rookie. He's a second-year man, Devin Tompkins is. Both of these receivers played extremely well, and I look forward to seeing them. I believe they will both make the team in that 4 and 5 spot. I don't see anybody who will do or could do better than what they've put on tape right now, especially, like I said, if you guys watched the game yesterday. Also, Chase Edmonds would be the last person besides Sean Tucker. I mentioned Sean Tucker earlier, so I'm not going to go back into detail. This guy's a rookie, but he's a big little guy, if you will. He's got a lot of power. He's able to break tackles. He's able to do a lot. So I look forward to seeing what he's able to do. But more importantly than that, Chase Edmonds, who was a free agent pickup for us this past offseason, looked pretty good, guys. Both out of the backfield and running the ball is something that you love to see, especially with the loss of Leonard Fournette. So, guys, just take that with a grain of salt as the performance was the first preseason game. But nonetheless, those are the highlights, the ups and the downs of that game and what took place last night. I look forward to seeing what happens next week. That game will be against the Jets. That game is going to be Saturday, August 19th at 7:30 p.m. So if you are wanting to watch that Buccaneers game, and I'm not sure if Aaron Rodgers is going to be starting for the Jets, but this could potentially be a good game to watch in the preseason as both of these teams are going to be meeting with starters actually playing in this game. Okay, so look out for that, guys. The starters will be playing in the Jets-Buccaneers game. Again, that game is Saturday, August 19th, 7:30 p.m. Now, let's jump ship, pun intended, over to the Jags, who are currently playing the Cowboys. Now, the last time I saw the score was the middle of the first, so it's been a few minutes, obviously. So if anybody wants to go ahead and put that score update in the chat box, I'll be sure to mention that here on the show just in case you aren't watching it. Unfortunately, I don't have the channel, so I'm actually watching the Fight Night, which I will go into detail about a little bit later on in the show, and I'm keeping up with the Rays game on my phone here, which it was going okay, but now it's not going okay. But, like I said, we'll get to that in a few moments. Back to the Jaguars. They're playing the Cowboys. Score was 0-0 middle of the first quarter, and the alarming issue here is that Trevor Lawrence has already thrown an interception. However, it is just preseason. I'm not sure why it always seems to be in the preseason that we see a lot of these teams struggle early. It's like, I'll put it to you like this. Imagine swimming in a 4-foot pool than going to a natural spring that's, 15 feet deep. You see what I'm saying? I think that's more so what the issue here is, especially when you get into the preseason and then you go from preseason to regular season. Trevor Lawrence is going to get together, guys. Trevor Lawrence is a computer of a man. He is very analytical, and he will right his wrongs. He's a good leader. He's becoming a better leader over time, and I just can't wait to see what happens. So there we go. Thank you, Taryn. It's going to be 14-zip Jags over the Cowboys. That's good news for Jaguars fans. This is what I kind of thought would happen once they start to figure out their groove. That defense is actually pretty good, so don't sleep on that defense, guys. Now, as far as Trevor goes, my expectations for him are pretty pretty standard at this point now that he's in his third year. I suspect that he'll win the AFC South. They're the best team clearly by far with the most continuity. And this is an example of that. Yeah, he can make mistakes early, but he has the ability to rally back and to bring his team back because he does possess those strong leadership skills. All right? Excuse me, my apologies, guys. Now, with that being said, I look forward more to seeing how this defense continues to perform, especially because they have so many young players. So, moving forward, next week, they will be playing against the Lions. That game is also going to be Saturday, August 19th at 1 p.m. So, if I were you guys, I would totally check that game out simply because the Lions are one of those teams that is in a similar position as the Jaguars. A couple years ago, they were thought to be a dead team. Now they've been through the draft over the last few years. They've been building their pieces. They've been acquiring free agency players who can actually fill the voids that they were once possessing. Now, the reason why I mention this is because the Tampa Bay Buccaneers played the Lions a few years ago. The year we won the Super Bowl, we played the Lions, and I think we won the game like 44-7. I think it was a complete blowout. It was destructive. Like Tom Brady threw like 5 touchdown passes. It was crazy. Okay, Mike had 2 of them. All right. Now, if this Lions team can bounce back from that, and their record that season was also terrible. I don't remember exactly what it was, but let's just say they were in a double digit for losses. Okay, the Lions were terrible 2.5, 3 years ago. All right, they're knocking on the door to contending for their division. All right, let's just be honest. Obviously, the Packers are falling down. The best team in that division is probably Minnesota, followed by the Bears. But the Lions aren't too far behind, guys. So I look forward to seeing both these teams play with their young rosters, more specifically, both of their young defenses. And I hope that they both show up and we'll be able to see a really classic of a ball game, if you will. That game, again, like I said before, is Saturday, August 19th, 1 p.m. All right, so like I said, both of these games, Tampa Bay and the Jaguars, will both be playing just at different times. Tampa Bay's game, 7:30. Jaguars game, 1 p.m. So if you want to watch both, you should be able to, hit both on the head. And yes, we can definitely throw away the Trevor Lawrence is a bust narrative. That guy, like I said, he is a computer of a person. He's only going to get better with time. And it's definitely one of those things where you'd rather be on his side than not on his side because the man is capable of magic. All right? There's no other way around it. Let's go visit Miami, you guys. So the Fins, they were the worst looking team of the 3 teams. Okay? And the Jaguars game isn't even over. And it's very simple as to why. Much like Tampa Bay, they didn't start any of their starters, okay? I don't think a single starter played for Miami last week. Now, they've been dealing with a lot of injury issues, so that's probably a big reason as to why, but we still got to talk about it nonetheless, so let's get into it. They played the Falcons yesterday. That score was a 19-3 shellacking, I guess you could say, in a preseason game, but nonetheless, 19-3 with the 3 coming late in the 4th is not... That's not something to write home about, guys, and that's the reason why I mentioned the shellacking part. The bright side to everything was that obviously it's the first preseason game, no starters for Miami, and not only were there not any starters, I don't think the game plan was to emulate what their style will be moving forward. See, a lot of times we watch games and we're thinking, oh, this is the team's identity, they want to do this. No, that's not necessarily the case. Yesterday, we saw a bunch of games that opened up with 3 straight runs, all right? That's because coaches are trying to see, hey, how's my offensive line doing? What's my my backup for running back? You know what I'm saying? What does my running back room look like, more specifically? These are things that, as a coach, you're going to ask yourself, you're going to want to dive into simply because if your first guy goes down, who do you have next? All right? The 49ers showed what having good depth could be like last year, losing 4 quarterbacks, and all 4 of them could have taken them to the NFC Championship game. You see what I'm saying? Like, that by itself is a big deal. And obviously, their defense is just monstrous, and that's part of the reason why they made it so far. But you still got to have a captain in the ship, okay? So, speaking of the captain of the ship, Skylar Thompson was the captain of the ship last night. He goes 10 for 16, 104 yards, no touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Ill. I know it's preseason, but ill. Yeah, that's pretty terrible. That's about. I guess he could have went 8 of 16 for 52 yards and 4 touchdowns. But I mean, essentially that's what he did. Just half of that, essentially. You see what I'm saying, guys? Like, that's not a great performance. And you're in the NFL. It's stuff like this that if you see it, and we're saying it's not a big deal in the first game, but then you get to the third game and the stat line looks the same. Somebody's gonna be shaking their head. All right. Somebody's gonna be like, all right, I don't know what we were doing with that guy. Okay. So. Take in consideration one thing, guys. The Falcons are not the best team. They're not even a really good team, all right, to be honest with you. So losing, albeit in the first preseason game, using a lot of backups and second and third string players, still getting mopped by a team of that caliber, 19-3, no bueno, guys. No bueno. Team essentially did not show up, all right? Coaching staff may have showed up, called bad plays. Look, we can put it wherever we want to put it, but at the end of the day, 19-3 is not going to get it done. Yeah, it is preseason, but there's nothing to write home about. Nobody jumped off the stat pad. Nobody really separated themselves in Miami from a backup player to a star player like we had in Tampa Bay. So that's the significance behind me, my apologies, going after Miami in this facet. I will say this. If you're going to score 3 points in the fourth, make it 7. All right? Like the 19-3, I mean, like I said, at least score a touchdown. Put something good on there. Now, the next game for Miami is going to be against the Texans. That one is going to be Saturday, August 19th as well. That's going to be at 4 p.m. So the first game's at 1 p.m. That's the Jaguars, all right, versus the Lions. Second game, Fins versus the Texans, 4 p.m. Third game, Tampa Bay versus the Jets, 7:30 p.m. Guys, you're going to get a chance to watch all of the Florida teams bang it out on one night, okay? And also the Texans won their last game against the Patriots. So that's something to look out for. Until then, let's go ahead and get into our first break. And when we get back, we're going to cover a little bit of what's going on in the NBA, and then we're going to jump into the Rays and talk about what's going on with them, okay, guys? My name is Corey Pujols. As always, I am your host for Palm Tree Sports, which is brought to you by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
What's good, fight fans? It's your boy, Marcus Los Rate, here to give you what you want, here to give you what you need. Yeah, man. Yeah. I'm coming to you live, straight from your mama's basement with a crispy, awesome white tea. We are coming to you live every Tuesday at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Powered by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Alrighty, guys, we are back at Palm Tree Sports Radio with your host Corey Pujols, brought to you and powered by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Guys, I'm watching the UFC event right now, and one of the fighters that I actually have had a dialogue with in the past, T-Rex, Terrence McKinney, just won in first round TKO fashion. So, guys, there's something exciting to talk about right there. Can't wait to see him celebrate on Twitter about it. Good guy, hell of a story. If you don't know who he is and you guys love a good story, go check out Terrence McKinney, learn about who he is, and check out his UFC, his mixed martial arts record as a whole. Very impressive stuff there, guys. Now, next we're going to talk about the Miami Heat. All right, guys, this is going to be kind of in and out, very quick, and this is more of a celebratory mention right here as the all-legendary Dwayne Wade has been selected to the NBA Hall of Fame, guys. And congratulations to him. Wow. This guy right here, for those of you who did not have the pleasure of watching D. Wade, they nicknamed him Flash, the Flash, as in like the Justice League, the Flash, Barry Allen and the other ones, but mostly just Barry Allen. The point being, the man was lightning in a bottle, essentially, okay? His play style was magnificent. We haven't quite seen anything like this from a point guard who could transform into a shooting guard at any point throughout the game, okay? The guy was absolutely phenomenal. I myself have a Miami Knights D. Wade jersey, the black one. It's one of my prized possessions. And my love for D. Wade didn't just come from him winning championships. I was a huge D Wade fan back in 06 when I was, 12 years old, and I believe him and Shaq ran the mill all the way up to an NBA title. Then he comes back with LeBron, wins 2 more when I'm in high school, okay, and actually getting out of high school at that point. So, needless to say, Dwayne Wade he's a magician. You know, the name Flash may not even do him justice. His highlight tape is probably a top 10 highlight tape all time, and I'm not joking, guys. If you haven't seen him, go check it out. The guy's an absolute monster. Needless to say, my favorite moment from D-Wade definitely had to be the alley-oop to LeBron, and they had that iconic image of Dwayne Wade kind of spreading his arms while LBJ is going in for the massive dunk back in those Miami Heat back-to-back championship years. And all I can tell you is he deserves it. Congratulations, D-Wade. We are so proud of you here in South Florida, and we look forward to seeing where you continue to go now that your NBA career is over. And he's now hosting a TV show. I think it's called The Box now. It's an interesting show. I've watched it a few times. It's not my favorite show or anything like that, but I will tell you, it is an interesting show. They had Shaq on. That was a good episode. So, that's the man, though. That is definitely the man. He is a legend here in Florida and across the world, but especially down here. All right, guys, we definitely love him. But that's it. That's all I want to mention for that. Not really wanting to dive too much further into that, obviously, because there will be more Hall of Famers that get announced later on as we, get closer and closer to the return of the NBA season. But congratulations, D-Wade. We love you, man. Now, let's talk about the Rays, okay? This team is driving me crazy. Cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, all right? I may have sounded a little passive talking about, about Dwayne going to the Hall of Fame. I thought it was kind of early, but hey, if he's eligible, he's eligible. Let's get it. The Rays, on the other hand, they're stressing me out, man. I'm getting gray hairs, all right? And I don't get gray hairs easily. Well, maybe I do, but I don't know that, okay? Here's the point. How are you one of the best teams in the league and you consistently drop these random games against teams we have no business? Now, I get it. That's how baseball is, all right? Yes, I get that. But guys, this has just been happening every series since the break, the All-Star break, guys. The point that I'm making, I think we've won 1 series since the All-Star break, and I mean clearing through 3-0, right? Everything else has been like 1-2, 2-1, sticky 1-run ball games or blowouts. It's never like in the middle, like an 8-5 ball game or anything like that. It just seems like those games elude us now. It's either get killed or we do the killing. I'm not sure where Tampa Bay's head is at, but I'll tell you where one player's head is at, and that's Wander Franco. If you guys did not see the jump pass yesterday, he performed. Let me tell you, it was a dime, baby. Might be play of the year. Matter of fact, is he the MVP or what? I mean, I get it. There's a ton of great players out there. I'm not knocking anybody. But let's talk about body of work. Let's talk about showing up. Let's talk about being in the zone. Wander Franco is a nutcase. This man is just doing stuff, and it's almost every week now, okay? Multiple times a week sometimes. The guy is playing out of his mind. As far as what's going on today's game, well, the Rays are playing the Guardians in the second of a 3-game series. The first game went the other way yesterday, and it wasn't what we expected, but hey, a win is a win. Wander Franco walked it off late in the 8th, and it was a 9-8 ball game. I'm starting to wonder if they're trying to do the same thing again today, because here we are in the second game of the series. The score was 1-1 middle of the 5th. I start watching the UFC fight. I come back, it's 3-1 Guardians. Aw, geez, here we go. Then I flip back again, and now it's 3-2. All right, top of the 8th. I'm not sure what's going to happen, but come on, Rays. Come on, guys. 1 run away from a tie. Tying run will be at second. Get some people on base, and let's bring one home. All right, guys? We know how this game is played. We just got to go out and do it. Well, that's what's going on today. The third of the 3-game series is going to be tomorrow at 1:40 p.m. So if you're looking for something to watch around lunchtime, Rays baseball, final of the 3-game series against the Guardians. Again, that game is going to be tomorrow, Sunday at 1:40 p.m. After that, we're heading out west to take on number 2 in the NL West, and that would be the San Francisco Giants. This is a team that I'm impartial to. I've always liked the Giants. I was very happy when they won their World Series a few years back. However, I'm a Rays fan through and through, guys, and we are number 2 in the AL East, even though we're not playing like it. But we are, all right? And I say that to say this. These are two of the teams with the better records on paper at the moment, okay? The Giants are sitting at 62-54 with the Rays sitting at 70-48 right now. For those of you wondering who the Guardians' record is, that would be 56-61. Obviously, the Guardians are not playing great baseball, which is what's driving me crazy about Tampa Bay right now. Why are we letting this team hang around? I'm sure I don't know. Maybe they're looking too far ahead at San Francisco. I wouldn't be surprised if that's the case. They've been known to do that down here in Tampa Bay, and I gotta call a spade a spade. But that 3-game series against the Giants is going to be starting on Monday, August 14th at 9:45 p.m. That is going to be primetime baseball, all right? Rays, Giants, primetime baseball. Again, that game is Monday, August 14th, 9:45 p.m., right after dinner time. So if you're looking for something to watch that evening, there you go. If you're not going to be watching Monday Night Raw, I'm going to be watching Monday Night Raw. I'm just letting you guys know that now. But I'll have the game on my phone as I normally do, okay? So that series is going to be a battle of the second-place teams, respectively, in their divisions. Again, the Rays in the AL East, second, and then the Giants in the NL West are also second. I can't wait to see this series specifically because these two teams don't meet very often as it is anyway, and when they do, it's usually a washing for Tampa Bay. So hopefully Tampa Bay can kind of flip the script a little bit here and get a couple of wins against San Francisco, huh? I mean, only time will tell. We're going to have to wait and see what happens. But here's hoping for the best in that series. Again, I am partial to the Giants, so I can't wait to see these two teams play each other, especially in prime time. But until then, let's try to pick up this win against the Guardians, who have just scored again, and now 4-2 Guardians here at the top of the 8th. And, so the door is closing pretty rapidly at this point for the Rays. They're going to need to get off the field right now and put that offense back on the mound and see if they can do something, make this game a little bit closer before the Guardians run away with it. Then they're going to have to go 2-1 against the Guardians and pick up the win tomorrow, which is what we're trying to avoid. We want a 3-0. We want a sweep, all right? We want to get the dustpan out. But we can't get the dustpan out if we don't win the second game, all right? So let's go, Rays. We believe in you. Come on now. Stop with all that foolishness and let's bring home this win, okay? Let's go ahead and get into our second break of the evening, and when we get back, we'll go ahead and get back to the rest of everything on what to watch for tonight, what to expect, and a couple of comments on what happened on SmackDown this past evening. If you guys watch pro wrestling, we're going to have an interesting little thing to talk about real quick, okay? I'll be back in a few moments. Keep it locked here at Palm Tree Sports Radio. As always, I am your host, Corey Pujols, and is brought to you and powered by IE Sports Radio. You know what it is, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Damn! Green team! Green team! Set! Hey!
What's going on, football fans? This is me, your boy Larry B, inviting you to join myself, Colin Reynolds, Mike Pat, and John Felipe for one of the most electrifying football shows you have ever heard. 3 and Out, right here at IE Sports Radio. Recap of the week before, a preview of what's to come, and of course, 3 hardcore head-to-head prime-time face-offs each week. You don't want to miss it.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, that's the man who makes it all possible for us, Mr. Larry B. That is always the man of the hour. Again, I try to emulate my show a little bit after his, take notes where I can, and become better where I can, and he's the guy who makes it all possible. Shout out, Larry. We appreciate it, my man. But we are back here at Palm Tree Sports Radio. Again, I am your host, Corey Pujols. As always, is brought to you and powered by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Guys, I got a little bit of news coming out of Florida, the University of Florida, okay? I'm not very excited about the quarterback room in Florida, like I'm not very excited about the quarterback room in Tampa Bay. That doesn't mean there isn't a starter, all right, or that there isn't any good news. Well, I got a starter. I don't know if this is good news, though. So, Billy Napier, our head coach, second-year head coach, has named Graham Mertz as the starter. Now, I'm pretty sure we saw this coming a mile away. Jack Miller III, I believe, is going to be our second on the depth chart at quarterback. He was fighting for the position, but let's be honest, I don't think he was ever in position to really win it. He's needs a lot more work. Let's just be honest. He needs a lot more work, and we'll have to see if he can really put it in and make a challenge for that position at starter. But Graham Mertz is most likely going to end up being the right call. We'll see what he's able to do once this season gets rolling, but that's, the big information there. And then also on the defensive side of the ball, defensive lineman Justin Boone out for the year off of an ACL tear. Guys, this is big for the University of Florida. This is not good news. This is terrible news for us. He was one of the difference makers on the interior there for us defensively last year. He was a guy who really came along, especially in the second half of the season. So losing him is absolutely monumental. Not good news for the University of Florida. However, you know what the standard is, next man up, and college has a lot more depth than we do in the pros, so let's hope we got somebody who's ready to step in. Guys, womp, womp, womp. Guardians 5-2, top of the 8th, still with another run in. Rays are really struggling right now, guys. It's funny, I just put that in the chat, and then they go up 5-2 again. It looks like they're trying to put this game out of reach, and they may have just done that with that final score, with that last score. I won't say final score, but the last score. Again, putting up 5-2 Guardians, top of the 5th, guys, just in case you're still following that game. So, like I said, unfortunate news for the University of Florida, though. Justice Boone, he's going to be missed this season, so hopefully he can come back next season. I think he's a junior this year, if I remember correctly. So we'll be able to see him again next year, but right now he's going to have to get that surgery. He's going to have to rehabilitate, get himself back in there. He's a big guy, so it's going to take a little bit extra, but I believe he can do it. Get better, Justice. We can't wait to see you get back. Now, for what to watch for tonight, if you guys are in the market for something, let's say you're just browsing the channels, you're saying to yourself, hey, I don't know what to watch tonight. Well, guys, right now, first and foremost, we got a UFC fight night going on. Pretty good one so far. Been a lot of finishes. Like I mentioned earlier, my boy T-Rex, Terrence McKinney, pulled out the first round TKO. I think the guy has 10 now. 10 first round finishes now. And the guy, basically the point that I'm making, he's explosive. His fights do not last long. Whether they go his way or otherwise, he does not take a lot of time. And in this fight specifically, he pulled out some wrestling, which is pretty cool. The point that I make behind that is he is a well-rounded fighter, yes, but he's known for his explosiveness and TKO ability. So him pulling out some wrestling tricks, even if it's just to make his opponent think, truly worked. I don't think his opponent landed a single shot on him the entire fight. He just came in and completely closed the distance. So that's something you look forward, especially when you're watching one of your more favorite fighters fight, and that was an example of that today. So congratulations, T-Rex. Good job, buddy. I can't wait, again, for you to celebrate on Twitter. I'll be there talking about it. Now, the main event for this card is going to be Vicente Luque versus RDA, Rafael Dos Anjos. For those who do not know, RDA is a legend in the mixed martial arts sport. This guy is, how can I put this? He's standing the test of time. The man is an absolute monster. He's been a machine for well over a decade now in the UFC, and he's always entertaining to watch. This guy can get it done standing up or going to the ground, so look forward to this main event. It's going to be a hell of a main event, guys. I'm going to go RDA. I'm a big fan of RDA. This is not to take away from Vicente Luque, who is a phenomenal fighter in his own right and has definitely put himself in the top echelon of the martial arts business, but today he has a very tough task against RDA, and we'll see if he can get it done. I'm going to go RDA by second round submission. The guy is a wizard both on the feet and on the ground, but I think he's a little bit more of a wizard on the ground, especially if you guys watch his early career and what he was able to do from his back. That is always an impressive thing, and he's hard to guard against. Now then, over to Bellator. I have a partner. I won't say partner. I have a friend. I would like to call him a friend. Alon Cruz, who trains at Kaizen. Okay, so Kaizen Tampa is the gym that I train at specifically for Muay Thai, and he trains there as well. Now, he is primarily a grappler, but he does have some heavy hands too. He can put your lights out. There's no doubt about that. So, I said to say this. He was part of the Bellator card coming off of 2 wins recently. Unfortunately, did not get the win. He lost to Alfie Davis yesterday by unanimous decision, but that's okay. He confirmed that he's all right. He's in good spirits, and he's going to come back bigger and better than ever. So, if you guys watch any Bellator MMA, it's just a cool thing to be able to say this, but Lauren Cruz does train at the same gym that I train at, and that is very cool. Again, we're hoping that when he comes back, he's able to get another one in that win column and move up further into the upper echelon of Bellator's MMA circuit, just like he did at the UFC, because he did fight in UFC, guys. So that's something pretty cool. It also brings a real life feel to it, especially when you get to train with him and train with his crew, because it's not just him. There's always, a crew there, and it's a great crew. So I'm happy for him. Now then, that's what's going on in the world of UFC. Let's talk about pro wrestling real quick because there are a few interesting things. First and foremost, if you're watching AEW's Collision card tonight, there's going to be a couple of good matches to look out for. The main event and co-main event specifically are going to feature some good independent acts teaming up, actually, rather than independent acts staying independent. This is something I like to see just because you get the chance to see a lot of your favorite wrestlers do it all at the same time. So, the Trios belts will be on the line. That's going to be the House of Black defending. For those of you who are familiar with the Malachi Black, Buddy Matthews, and I forget the big guy's name. But the House of Black will be defending against FTR and CM Punk. CM Punk and FTR have a long history with each other, so this is something that we're going to see happen more times than not. CM Punk teaming up with FTR, but also FTR are currently the AEW Tag Champions, and they have a match coming out at All Out London against the Young Bucks, my favorite tag team in the whole world. And in my opinion, the best tag team in the whole world as well. The co-main event is going to be women's TBS champion, that is, Chris Statlander, who took the title off of Jade Cargill a few months ago, teaming up with Willow Nightingale, the women's strong champion in IWGP Wrestling, versus Mercedes Martinez and Diamante. This should be a relatively good match, guys. Mercedes Martinez is a strong wrestler, strong striker with a martial arts background. Chris Statlander, of course, the TBS women's champion, and probably the best wrestler from the female perspective on AEW at the moment. Okay, at the moment, that is subject to change, of course. This should be a great match, especially if you love to see the women do their thing. I'll be excited to see this matchup also myself. Now, I don't normally talk WWE, but this was a very interesting development that took place, okay? One, I want to highlight WWE's change in direction for what seems to be. Austin Theory lost his title to Rey Mysterio on SmackDown, which is very cool. And the reason why I mention that is because, guys, a lot of the time we don't see title swaps on the regular shows, SmackDown and Raw. We normally see those title swaps on pay-per-views. This was the U.S. champion, Austin Theory, who lost his title to Rey Mysterio. I'm very excited for this. Rey Mysterio is an absolute legend in the wrestling business. He is one of the guys that I look up to. He's definitely one of those guys that you love to watch wrestle, and he's somebody with an absolute amazing repertoire of moves, and he was somebody that I really enjoyed watching growing up as a kid, and now that I'm an adult, I still enjoy watching him. Congratulations, Rey Mysterio. I think that makes him a Grand Slam champion, so congratulations 2 times to Rey. He absolutely deserves it, and I look forward to seeing his title reign last at least 6 months, if not a little bit longer. Go Rey Mysterio. But in bigger news, did Jey Uso quit WWE? What? All I can say is this story has dragged out for a long period of time, but I will say this, okay? If he did quit, that might be an homage. I don't say an homage, but a note as to how things are going in WWE right now, as he was part of one of the most illustrious tag teams in WWE history, known as the Usos, twin brothers, Jey and Jimmy. And with this latest bit of the storyline of Jimmy changing on Jey and siding with what looked to be Roman, I'm not 100% sure. I can't see, into the future or anything. But it's just something interesting to take in consideration. Jey did say, I'm out of the bloodline, I'm out of SmackDown, and I am out of WWE. Deuces. We will see what that means, especially next week, whether he's on the show or not. But like I said, we will see what happens next. Maybe he's going to be All Elite. Maybe he's going to go to Japan. Maybe he's going to go to TNA. There's a lot of maybes in the air. But only one Jey Uso can confirm that for us. That's everything I have for you this week, guys. I really appreciate you guys joining me here on Palm Tree Sports Radio. Like I said, quite a few things to look out for. Later tonight, there's obviously going to be NFL football, preseason football going on all night. There's going to be baseball, and then the fight night is currently on at the moment. Rays game should be wrapping up any moment. Let me go ahead and give you guys a last update on that game. It is still 5-2, bottom of the 8th. My apologies, guys. So Rays were able to stop the bleeding there. They're going to have 2 more chances to try and tie this game up or take the lead, and we'll see what happens there. In the meantime, between time, you got AEW wrestling tonight, along with the rest of this UFC fight card, just in case you're looking for anything to watch, guys. My name is Corey Pools. I've been your host for Palm Tree Sports Radio. As always, I'd like to leave you with a few tidbits. Spend time with your family. Enjoy the weekend, guys. I don't know where you're at in the country. Very, very hot down here. Okay, very, very hot. Heat index was 112 today. All right. I was out doing community service this morning, doing a little warehouse work. And let me tell you, by the time I moved the first box over, I had sweat dropping from my nose. Okay, that's what it is over here in Central Florida. I don't know where you're at, but wherever you're at, wherever you're listening from, pray for us because it's hot. You know, we're trying to evict the sun right now, okay? So we'll let you know how that goes next week. Until then, again, thank you for joining me here. Spend time with your loved ones. Enjoy the rest of the weekend. Enjoy the sports that are going to be. There's going to be plenty of sports to watch between today and tomorrow. Also on Monday as well, for that matter. I look forward to seeing you same place, same time next week. 6 p.m. Saturday evening. We'll cover what happened in Tampa Bay's next game next week, along with the other few teams, and then we'll get back into what's going on with the Rays as we get closer to the NCAA season, start of college football, and I will be giving you more depth chart updates from the college football perspective. Thank you again for having it locked here, guys. I have been Corey Pujols. This has been Palm Tree Sports Radio, powered by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Peace and love. I'll see you next week, guys.